This is Sundaram. No, just sitting here. Just wait. Sundaram.
Oh, yeah.
We've been told not to speak because it's just going to get started.
Good afternoon, everyone. Illustrious son of illustrious parents, Sundara Reddy and Dr. Muthulakshmi Reddy, Director of Cancer Institute, ardent teacher, doyen of oncology care, member of many advisory committees of World Health Organization and Central Government of India, Padma Shri awardee. Dr. S. Krishnamurthy is known to all of us in his many capacities. In memory of his illustrious service, this august gathering have assembled here for this oration instituted by the Cancer Institute and the Tamil Nadu Dr. M.G.R. Medical University. We will commence the program with invocation song, followed by the anthem of Cancer Institute. I request everyone to rise. Now, honor Sir's memory with a small floral tribute. Thank you, sir and madam. I now invite the Vice Chancellor of the Tamil Nadu, Dr. M.G. Medical University, Dr. Sudha Seshayan, to deliver the welcome address.
Vanakkam. Dr. Krishnamurthy, whose memory that we all honor today, was a beacon light in the area of cancer care. Following the footsteps of his illustrious mother, the illustrious son walked the same path to bring relief and hope to thousands and thousands of grief-stricken people. It is a privilege and honor to be associated with the name of this great man. On my personal behalf and on behalf of the university, I feel greatly privileged that the Dr. S. Krishnamurthy Memorial Oration hitherto will be from this university. Sometime in 2019, September 14, the same day in the year 2019, to be very specific, I met Madam Shanta at the Cancer Institute. In fact, it is not a personal boast, but then I had the honor of delivering the Dr. S. Krishnamurthy Memorial Oration in 2019 in Madam Shanta's presence. A few days later, Madam thought the oration could be expanded into a larger scale and be endowed at the university. And that is how Dr. S. Krishnamurthy Memorial Oration has been brought to the university. And at the close of 2019, it was decided that the first oration be delivered by Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, the first oration of the newly endowed larger award. And in the month of January in 2020, we had Dr. Soumya Swaminathan delivering the oration from this very auditorium. Much to our disappointment, the September 2020 oration could not be held due to the pandemic situation. 2021, we have Dr. Raghunatha Rao to deliver the Dr. S. Krishnamurthy Memorial Oration today in this premises. And I take this opportunity to welcome each one of you to this memorable occasion. The orator today, as I already told you, is Dr. Raghunatha Rao, another doyen in the field of cancer care. And I'm much honored to welcome you, sir, not only to this oration, but also to this great university. Chennai is not new to you, but today, this university and Chennai feel very privileged for your presence here. I take this opportunity to welcome Professor Major D. Raja and Professor Anandakannan, the former Vice Chancellors of this university. Thank you very much, sirs, for being with us, a source of strength and guidance to the university as ever. The committee to select the orator this year had an extremely eminent face, and that is Dr. Pala Babu Rajesh, the Vice President of the Royal College of Surgeons, Edinburgh. Dr. Rajesh has joined us from Edinburgh virtually, and Dr. Rajesh, welcome. Welcome to Chennai. Greetings from Chennai. Dr. Sundaram Krishnamurthy, the son of Dr. Krishnamurthy, is the light of a glorious lineage. It is my privilege to welcome Dr. Sundaram Krishnamurthy, who has joined us from the United States of America. And welcome, sir. Thank you for being with us. We do understand it is an odd hour at that part of the globe. Nevertheless, thank you very much for your guidance. I also take this opportunity to welcome the director of the Cancer Institute, Dr. Selva Lakshmi, the executive vice chairman of the Cancer Institute, Dr. Hemant Raj, the members of the governing body and the various committees and authorities of the Cancer Institute, especially Dr. S.N. Bhatt, who has come to grace this occasion, Dr. Mahadevan, former Dean of JIPMA Pondicherry, who's here with us today, the members of the Governing Council of the University, the members of the Senate, the members of the Boards of Studies, the faculties, and various other authorities of the university. I also welcome the faculty and the various staff of the Cancer Institute who are here with us, and very special welcome to all those admirers of Cancer Institute in various capacities who are here to participate and be a part of this extremely solemn occasion. I welcome each one of you, and I seek the blessings of Dr. S. Krishnamurthy and Madam Shanta this afternoon. And I'm very hopeful their guidance would always take us to better future. Thank you and welcome once again.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Krishnamurthy does not need any introduction. However, it is always a pleasure to have an opportunity to hear more about her. I now invite Dr. E. Hemant Raj, the Executive Vice Chairman of Cancer Institute Women's India Association, to introduce her.
Dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, and members who are present by virtual mode. Good afternoon to everybody. We have gathered here today for the second Dr. S. Krishnamurthy centenary oration, conducted jointly by Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University and the Cancer Institute. Dr. Krishnamurthy, as most of you will know, the pioneer and a doyen in the field of oncology. He was born on September 12, 1919, as the second son of very illustrious parents, Dr. Muddulakshmi of Pudukkottai and Dr. Sundar Reddy of Kadalur. He graduated from Madras Medical College in the year 1942, did his master's in surgery in Stanley Medical College and completed it in 1946. For a short while, he worked as an assistant to Dr. C. Raghavachari in Stanley. He married Miss Mandagini, and both are survived by a son and a daughter. In 1947, Dr. Muddulakshmi sent her son, Dr. Krishnamurthy, abroad for higher studies in cancer. And when Dr. Krishnamurthy returned in 1949, he was appointed as Cancer Unit Chief in Government General Hospital, Chennai. He tried his level best to take it forward. Unfortunately, he could not succeed in that. At that point of time, he was very much interested and very much pained to see the struggle his mother was undergoing to start a cancer center, to serve all the poor and needy, to take care of all sections of the society. It was a very uphill task for her to get a piece of land and to collect money. And so Dr. Krishnamurthy wanted to take his mother's dream forward. And that is how this Cancer Institute was formed. And the foundation stone was laid in 1952 by the then Prime Minister of the country, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And the institute opened its doors in 1954 with Sevagram like huts with 12 beds. It was an uphill task from the day one. It was a struggle, not only because they were cash strapped, because it's a charitable organization. Those days, cancer was considered as an incurable disease and a lost cause, the karma vyadi. That was the term. And they received very little help from everybody all around. Krishnamurthy stood steadfast in his work, and 24/7, 365 days, he put in his hard work. Karma mein kanna yanar. I think he is the example for that. Sri Kumara Gurubarar, Mai Varutam Parar, Asinokar, Kantunjar applies to him. Even though Dr. Krishnamurthy was a surgeon, he was a keen radiobiologist. He conducted several randomized trials with several radiosensitizers, which are all published. He started the multimodality treatment in India in the late 1960s and 70s. A lot of criticism at that point of time for this. Now, the most popular thing is the multimodality treatment in cancer. He was a passionate teacher, and he was primarily responsible for starting MCH surgical oncology and DM medical oncology, and also MSc in medical physics as first in our country. He was also responsible for several firsts in the country, which is a long list for the institute. Krishnamurti was a member of several organizations, as the first speaker mentioned. He was for a long time as an advisory committee of the WHO. He also received his Padma Shri. Dr. Krishnamurti was a man of principles, his integrity total. His devotion and dedication to the institute was unmatched. He strongly felt if the ideals that inspired a good cause was lost sight of, gets replaced by self-interest, then that carried the seeds of dissolution. In his opinion, the source of our strength should be the nobility of the cause that we advocate and should not derive from the politics of a group or the influence of an individual. He is an example of En Kadan Anisayide Kadapade Appar சொன்னதுக்கு இவரோட ஒரு உதாரணம். Dr. Krishnamurti passed away peacefully on 2nd of July 2010, having led a very wholesome life and quite satisfied with his work. This oration was started on the centenary year of his birth. And the first orator was Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, Chief Scientist of WHO. Today is the second centenary oration of Dr. Krishnamurti, and the speaker is going to be Dr. Raghunatha Rao, our alumni. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving the insight about. In great deeds, something abides. On great fields, something stays. Forms change and pass. Bodies disappear. But spirits linger. To live in the hearts we leave behind is not to die. Sir is there in all our hearts. So I now invite Dr. Krishnamurti Sundaram, son of Dr. S. Krishnamurti, who has joined us from US to share his memories of his father.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I would first like to thank the Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sudha Sheshayan, and her staff of the Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University for inviting me to talk today. I would also like to thank Dr. Hemant Raj, Executive Vice Chairman of the Cancer Institute, and his entire staff for allowing me to participate in this occasion today. I thought I should share some events in my father's life that Dr. Hemant Raj has not mentioned, which may be of some interest and can give you some insight into his character. When he was about 10 years old, my grandfather, Dr. T. Sundar Reddy, who was then professor of anatomy at Madras Medical College, and Dr. Muthulakshmi Reddy, my grandmother, were living in a house on Randal's Road in Chennai. One fine morning, the housekeeper came to them and said that young Krishnamurti has disappeared and they cannot find him, and he has not eaten his breakfast. So my grandmother started searching the compound and found him meditating under a tree. She said to stop his meditation and come and eat his breakfast. So he did not want to go back, and he said he wanted to follow Gautama Buddha. She convinced him in her own strong way that only Dr. Muthulakshmi Reddy could, that his business was to become a doctor and serve people. And he had no choice but to agree with what she said. A second incident that occurred after he spent some time with Mahatma Gandhi ji at Sevagram. He was in the final year MBBS at that time, at MMC, and news came that Dr. Gandhiji had been arrested because of the Satyagraha movement and was put in jail. Many of the final year students, including my father and their junior friends, and if I mention their names, you will recognize most of them because they later on did very well in their lives. And they cut banners and cut class and started marching as freedom fighters in front of the gates of MMC. They were promptly arrested and taken to the Flower Bazaar police station and spent one night in jail for their freedom fighting activities. The superintendent of police called my grandmother, Dr. Muthulakshmi Reddy, and asked her to come and bail them out. And she came and she bailed them out of the police station and told them to go right back to MMC and do their studies and concentrate on their education. A few quick points about my dad. One, he was very dedicated to the improvement of cancer care in Tamil Nadu and in India. Secondly, the continued development of the Cancer Institute, which was founded by Dr. Muthulakshmi Reddy, my father, Dr. Krishnamurthy, and Dr. V. Shanta. We thank them for all their efforts. The education of future oncologists in India, and he was also devoted to research in oncology. If he was here today, he would be very pleased with all his students and the organizers of this memorial oration as it furthers his life's objectives, which is teaching and continued lifelong learning. Thank you, and please enjoy the oration.
Thank you very much, sir. That was insightful, knowing that he wanted to become Buddha. Thank you very much, sir. It was very interesting to hear from you about your father. So to serve poor people is to serve God. Sir, instead of becoming Buddha, he has chosen to serve people. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We now have Dr. Pala Babu Rajesh, one of the member of the committee who chose the speaker for today's oration. He is a consultant cardiothoracic surgeon, but holds the prestigious post of Vice President of the prestigious Institute of the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh, one of the oldest surgical college in the world. He has joined us from Birmingham. I welcome you, sir. Please share your memories of Dr. S. Krishnamurthy. Thank you.
Vice Chancellor Dr. Sudha Sheshayan, Dr. Sundaram Krishnamurthy, all the dignitaries on the dais, and the attendees at this August gathering of Dr. S. Krishnamurthy Memorial Oration, my thanks for your attendance. It has been a very long association with Sundaram, who is Dr. Krishnamurthy's son. He was senior to me in MMC by a year. We had many wonderful memories of the days when we were in college and our association with the Adyar Cancer Institute. My association with Adyar Cancer Institute was the stories that my father, Dr. Babu Naidu, who was a radiologist at the Barnard Institute of Radiology, told me about Dr. Muthulakshmi Reddy and Dr. Sundar Reddy. He knew them. He was a friend of Dr. Sundar Reddy when he was an tutor in anatomy at the Madras Medical College under Dr. Sundar Reddy's guidance. It is more of a family association that I have with Dr. Krishnamurthy's um, family, and I am delighted that I was requested by Dr. Sudha Seshan to participate as a member of the shortlisting committee and to help in progressing this oration today. Thank you very much for requesting me to participate in this August gathering from the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh.
Thank you, sir. I now invite Dr. G. Selvalakshmi, Director, Cancer Institute, Women's India Association, to introduce the orator.
Good evening to all. Respected Vice Madam, respected dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, my colleagues and friends. It gives me great pleasure to introduce today's orator, Dr. D. Raghunatha Rao. I joined Cancer Institute in 1987, just after my MBBS, and Dr. Raghunatha Rao joined his DM on the very same year, in the same year to pursue his DM. And those days at the Institute, under the leadership of Dr. Shanta and Dr. Krishnamurthy, even though there was a lot of discipline, we did have a enjoyable time. And I was quite young at that time. I had not yet pursued my MD at that time. So born to illustrious parents, Dr. Raghunatha Rao's father was a well-known pathologist and a very good friend of advisor, late Dr. Krishnamurthy. I came to know this only a day back while I was talking to Dr. Raghunatha Rao. So Dr. Krishnamurthy was very conversant in pathology. I gather from Dr. Raghunatha Rao that he used to sit with his father and see all the pathology slides and discuss with him. So this connection of this oration probably started there. I'm not very sure. He has been in mind. And his mother is an organic chemist. She's also from Madras University. Later, when both the states, Madras and Andhra, divided, I think his father moved into Guntur, and then he was instrumental in setting all the pathology departments literally in all medical colleges in Andhra Pradesh. His Dr. Raghunatha Rao's wife is a gynecologist who has been with him throughout his endeavors. He started his schooling at St. Joseph's Convent, Kakinada, and then moved on to University Campus School and Kendriya Vidyalaya in Tirupati. And he did his intermediate at Andhra Loyola College and his medical degree at Andhra Medical College, Visakhapatnam. MD at Punjab University, Chandigarh, was DM Medical Oncology at the Cancer Institute. He also has an MRCP and FACP. His interest in basic oncology him into more advanced training with molecular biology techniques and experimental biotherapeutics, and his training in clinical trials were very useful for him as well throughout in his career. From 1989 to 2018, he was at Nizam's Institute, Hyderabad. From there, he moved on as a director of Homi Baba Cancer Hospital and Research Center at Visakhapatnam. Later, as advisor in oncology at Saga Steel General Hospital, Visakhapatnam, and is at present chief medical oncologist at KIMS Icon, Visakhapatnam. I asked him, "Are you director?" He said, "No, I don't want all those responsibilities at present. I'm just medical oncologist." That's what he told. There are a lot of things to be told. There are about 5-page documents about Dr. Raghunatha Rao's achievements. There are several orations which he has given. To name a few of them, he has given the ISMPO oration twice, and first medical oncology chair oration at SIM, and B. Ramamurthy Memorial Oration, then Vaspatarakam Indo-American Cancer Center Foundation Day Oration, Dr. P.V. Jagannath Rao Memorial Oration, and Dr. G. Ram Raj Oration. He has been awarded the B.C. Roy National Award, ICMR, pioneering the development of oncology in 2003. He has several other awards and honors as well.
he has several hundreds of publications, and me going through all this going to take a whole day. I think I'm not going to go into all those things. He has been in the editorial board of several journals, and he has been the editor-in-chief of Indian Journal of Medical and Pediatric Oncology. To conclude, Dr. Raghumathi Raghunath Rao, a man with a mission mode to extend affordable service to needy cancer patients in times of commercialization in the medical sector. Dr. Raghunath Rao puts society and people first. I request, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for the extensive introduction. So having a BC Roy awardee giving his oration today is a very warm, pleasant surprise to us. I invite Dr. D. Raghunatha Rao to deliver his oration on individuals, institutions, and value systems in cancer care.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would first like to express my sincere thanks to the Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Memorial University, our Vice Chancellor, registrars, the Vice Chairman of the Cancer Institute, and the Director of the Cancer Institute for the kind introduction. Can I have the presentation? There's one slide. Yeah. Go back. There's one. This is the last slide. Please go to first. Yeah. So the reason I chose to deliver this as an oration is precisely the reason why perhaps I joined the Cancer Institute, why perhaps I imbibed those values and continue to do so. So I would like to share my views on what an individual is and an institution is and a value system is as related to health sciences in general and the cancer care in particular. I will definitely have a reference to the Cancer Institute and its individuals and value systems to illustrate my point as I go along. Our advisor, as we called Dr. Krishnamurthy, was extraordinarily fond of this figure of Lord Ganesha, and to all the visiting dignitaries, he used to explain why we did a prayer and why we have the so-called, as they claim, an elephant-headed god in our midst. But the stanza I have chosen to see under the Ganesha, it is written with humanity and in wisdom. So the in wisdom part emanates from the person there, that is from the God there, and that is what he was very fond of. So you need to use your wisdom to serve humanity. This is how he used to explain to all the visiting dignitaries. The next part is the simple Sanskrit sloka, which permits me to express my own thanks to the host of my teachers in this audience, my peers, my seniors, and my colleagues and juniors in this audience. So it is a parampara which continues. So simply stated, Vande Guru Parampara. So before I go any further, I would like to pay my respect, because of whom I stand before you, all my gurus. Now, this is the man whose honor we are talking. As you know, a couple of them have already spoken about him. You heard a snippet when he was 10 years old and way beyond. I have read a lot about him. I had a chance to actually read the original manuscript which he has written as his autobiography. Most of you may not have had that privilege. It was indeed a privilege. It was phenomenally inflammatory. And I was given the task of putting in parentheses all that will be permanently hidden from humanity. So this is a short interview I have taken, an excerpt from an interview about Dr. Krishnamurti, a doctor and an institution builder. So when does a person transform from being an individual into an institution? So the institution is now identified, or the person is now identified as the institution. So here is the terminal part of the interview. He spoke haltingly in a low voice, but with perfect command over his thoughts. This was his standard way of speaking. He never hurried. You could never hurry him to talk. You could never hurry him to say what he wanted. He took his time, gathered his thoughts, but he spoke extraordinarily clearly. We were very fortunate to have had the entire part one of Divita in his own hand, from his own mouth. So we heard his thoughts of how to do it. Winding up, he said, yes, I am contented with my life. I have lived not for myself, but for others. That is the first part. I have lived not for myself, but for others. Second, no, I'm not satisfied with what we have achieved at the Cancer Institute. He added a rider to that. There's more to be done, but I have no regrets. So on the whole, he was pretty happy with what he achieved, but he knew that there was much more to achieve. It was the voice and tone of a pioneer who had, this is the conclusion of the interviewer, after the quotations end, with a sense of mission, who struggled hard to build an institution and was now grappling with a vastly different environment. Most of you heard that this institution originally started as a charity. As you know, the entire scene of medical care in India moved away from the government to some charities, all the way to highly corporatized cancer care, or for that matter, healthcare in general. So he was phenomenally upset by this change, and he was trying to grapple with the corporatization of healthcare in general. As most of you have already heard, the impetus was his mother, this illustrious lady, at a time when cancer was considered to be a karma vyadhi. Professor Hemant Raj has already told you this, inescapably fatal. That is the word he actually used. He battled on for 3 decades to persuade people that cancer was indeed curable. If you read the book he wrote, you will find out how people laughed at him when he was asked to start a cancer hospital or have a cancer department in the Madras Medical College. When I was doing my own fellowship in the Tata Memorial Hospital soon after I finished PG in Chandigarh, many people thought that I would follow in the footsteps of my mentor, Professor Jang Bahadur Tilavari, who was a very great hepatologist and a gastroenterologist. But my interest at that time was something on which I worked during a short period as an ICMR fellow on immunophenotyping of lymphomas with another doyen, Professor Shobha Sehgal at the PGI. So at that time, it was being understood that there is much more to just enumerating the white blood cells as N, neutrophil or polymorph, lymphocyte or monocyte and basophil. And way beyond the morphological identity, there was much more of the immune system to grapple with. That the immune system is intricately linked to many diseases which occur in the human body. So I was already a Lady Tata fellow at that time. So I thought I could probably spend some time in clinical immunology at that time. That was my primary interest. Peculiarly, there were only two immunology departments in those times. One was with Professor Kochpillai at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and the second one was in the Tata Memorial Hospital. It was indeed not called the Department of Medical Oncology. In fact, it did not exist. Only a chemotherapy unit existed in Tata Memorial Hospital. When I went there was nothing called immunology, but everything was oncology, and then I found it challenging. So for many years, a lot of people used to think I was a madcap. In fact, people used to think I was even madder to come and do a DM at the Cancer Institute. I once chanced to walk across the border into the IIT, and I met a professor of physics there who said, "You must be a madcap thinking that drugs can cure cancer. So it can only be either removed surgically or burned with energy, nothing more than that." So I'm talking of 1987. So it's not very far away, but yes, people thought I was a totally mad fellow. Imagine some 65 years back that this happened, and everybody must have thought both of them were out of their minds to think about it. Now, here is the seedling, a firm desire to institutionalize cancer treatment. I have not altered any of her sentences. These are her own sentences. So he sent Krishnamurti, most of you know, for surgical oncology units in the US, and then he went to UK to see if he can join there. We got a telegram, he said, this is what Dr. Krishnamurti said to the reporter, saying that his mother was seriously ill. It was a typical cinematic telegram. So he rushed back home thinking his mother is not well, to find that she was hale and hearty, nothing wrong with her. And she simply said, "I sent you abroad to study so that you could come back and serve our people, not live comfortably in a foreign country." This is his statement. So you see that a vision, a mission mode was already, as he rightly said, in his mind. So at 10 years of age, he decided he must be a doctor. He then decided that he must be a cancer doctor. She then decided that he must serve the people of this country, not have a cushy job of living abroad and not serving Indian people. So this is what it happened. So we now find some core values which come out from this dialogue: simplicity, austerity, hard work, service orientation. He was a firm believer in science as the harbinger of progress in medicine and a commitment to national development. I have underlined the not because it was italicized and in the interview, motivated by monetary rewards. This is what he and Dr. Krishnamurti decided, that it will never be motivated by a monetary reward. So at the crux of its founding philosophy was a commitment to make treatment and care accessible to all, irrespective of what your capacity to pay was. So this abiding principle was that a patient with a curable cancer should not be denied treatment for the lack of money. This is the first statement I recollect hearing in the first class we had as to what is the philosophy of this institute by the advisor, that no patient shall be denied treatment in any form, which when he has a curable cancer. Well, you know the leadership which followed. So I have put italicized the successful part. It's a successful fight against several odds, just like the predecessor too. So biases, bigotry, prejudice, and injustice. Prejudice even against a woman going to a school, prejudice against a woman doing a medical education, prejudice at her working, prejudice at even a cancer patient being given treatment. I once remember in Tata Memorial Hospital that we had an illustrious Deputy Secretary of the Department of Science and Technology visiting us, and he said very bluntly in a hall like this in Tata Memorial Hospital, the waste of funds of the public exchequer to treat cancer. It's a waste of funds of public exchequer to treat cancer. This place should be shut down. This is what he had told us when we were just young. I was in my first year of fellowship, and this is what he said in a hall like this. I was shocked beyond words and asked him, "You think that patients should be allowed to die and should not be cared for?" He said, "Yes, precisely what you have said is my opinion, that no patient of cancer should be treated, they should be allowed to die." I could not sleep for a couple of months after that, that such an illustrious man who is a deputy secretary for the Department of Science and Technology in the government of India comes and talks at a Tata Memorial Hospital this way, that nobody with cancer should be treated and they should be allowed to die. Lo and behold, in a couple of months, his own wife had an extraordinarily rare lymphoma, a lymphoma of the breast, and she was successfully treated and lived for the next 30 years, having been cured. So I hope the man changed his views of the treatment of cancer, at least after his personal experience. This is what Professor Shanta had told an interviewer, both my grandfather and from Sir C.V. Raman. I learned that you have to do something other than routine. So I'm trying to characterize the individual for all of you. This is exactly her words. Something other than routine. Don't do the routine. So she was an obstetrician and gynecologist. She could have jolly well gone on delivering people or doing hysterectomies by the dozen, which you can do day in and day out. Probably in your sleep also you can do. But if you do something other than the routine, humdrum of things to make a difference, the idea is to do something out of the routine which makes a difference. This is important. The point is, the stress is out of the way, but it should make a difference. That is the important part. So this is what the great lady had said. So let us see, we have seen the individuals. Let us see what characterizes an institution. Is it the climate? Is it it is oppressingly hot here. You still wear a tie, you still wear Western clothing. Yeah, I agree. Is it the people? Is it the method? Or is it your experience there? Or is it something which is unique, which actually makes it an institution? So this is what Dr. Shanta used to tell us, and she wrote in her memoir. We would finish surgeries in the morning, run the OP in the afternoon, clean up and put up the instruments for surgery at night, and slip exhausted into sleep. So this was the routine. So you did everything. That means you did the work of the Aya, you did the work of the OT assistant, you did the work of the anesthetist, you did the work of the surgeon. You yourself stitch your own masks and your gowns. And of course, you saw your patients, work them up, and you moved the trolleys around. So you start like that in that place. You don't require a mansion to become an institution. You don't require a Taj Mahal to be admired. It can still be this park, and you will still get the recognition you need, provided this is what you put into it. That is the uniqueness with which it comes. So it is the uniqueness which actually matters. So the individual itself himself actually transforms into an institution. This is important to understand that the individual can itself, can himself or herself be an institution. Some of us think it is charisma. No, it is not. But most important is the pioneering spirit. They are astute clinicians. Both of them were extraordinarily good in their clinical excellence. So he would say in the pediatric ward, if the child is sitting in bed and not playing with the other children in the pediatric ward, something is wrong with the child. He had another adage which would say that if this child is telling some symptom, he is not lying. So in her opinion, children do not know how to lie. This was her adage. So he was very fond of repeating these two things to any number of students who he came across. So he was a very patient trainer. What I mean with this patience is in the term of patience, an excellent teacher and a relentless researcher. Most of you, perhaps, I was talking to Delva Lakshmi that when they got the first Messier machine, there were no people to actually measure the output and characterize it and to say this is the dose that needs to be delivered and this is what is the output, things like that. So I remember the advisor telling me that the original machines, cobalt machines, were using duck embryos to characterize what dose actually rendered 50% of them sterile. That means you don't get any ducklings out of it. So that is what we call as LD50. So, but in Tamil, in Madras, he could not find a duck and he could not find a duck egg to do this. So he simply said, let us do it with chick embryo. Does it make any difference? So he said, I did it and I didn't find any difference. And since then, everybody has turned to chick embryos and not duck embryos. So research started way back then. They never followed anything which you believe is standard now, which you believe standard now, emanated from there. Most people actually do not know that pre-operative chemotherapy and radiotherapy were started at this institute for the entire world. I underline that word, for the entire world. This concept never existed that a locally advanced tumor should be treated with pre-operative chemoradiotherapy. Professor Krishnamurthy was abhorrent of the word neoadjuvant. He used to say neoadjuvant is actually a wrongly constructed word. Adjuvant means that there is no disease and you are mopping up what little you can find in the body through any imaging system or any blood test. The neoadjuvant means the tumor is still there. So how can you use two words, join them together and say that it is a new word? So he would often correct people to say that there is nothing called neoadjuvant, but everything is pre-operative or induction chemotherapy. They were very humble and extraordinarily good administrators. So the adage still remains affordable, yet world-class healthcare. I'm not using any of my words. These are all words which are given by Professor Shanta. So I've just taken the words out of mine. So we will come back again to the next set of core values, that treatment must be equitable for all patients. The emphasis on must, rich and poor. Professor Hemant Raj has already alluded to this. It should never become a commodity. Cancer should never become a commodity to be traded in. It should not be the source of your income, source of your riches. You should not become a overnight mogul using cancer to earn your money. But treat the patient as a human being. And above all, you need to have a respect for human life. So this is what they had emulated. These are my early impressions when I joined the hospital. There was an absolute lack of any men. The only man, if I remember right, was one who was cured of leprosy, whom the advisor found wandering on the streets of Gandhipuram, and he was brought and employed as a gateman. Not really a watchman, he could do very little watching, but he was used as a gateman. I don't know whether he still exists. Every other person was a woman. That is what was striking at that time. And an extraordinarily well-planned outpatient department. If you have ever seen the outpatient, you will understand the patient can walk into any of the rooms. But the specialists are all sitting behind, each one according to his area of specialization, and they will walk in to consult the patient. In any other hospital, the patient is typically kicked up or down the staircase, up or down the corridor to visit n number of specialists with a note in the file, which they can neither read nor the patient doesn't understand. The patients don't know what is surgical oncology, radiation oncology, what is nuclear medicine, what's a PET scan. No, they have never heard of that. In fact, most patients don't know their body parts at all. If you tell them you have a prostate cancer or a cervical cancer, patients don't know where in the body is that cancer, is that part where you are saying that I have a cancer. So that is a unique outpatient they have created, where all the specialists sit behind, but it is communicated to with everybody. And if it is primarily belonging to some other department, you can simultaneously take a consultation. There is no prescription slip. Till date, outside or nearby the Cancer Institute, there is not a single medical shop. You find a single medical shop. It's now for the past 60 years, there's not a single medical shop will sell any cancer drug. In those days, there is in fact no drug available. Prescription filling pharmacy was available till you reach the Mount Road. So that is important to understand. There was no prescription set. Nobody went with a prescription slip to buy. Whatever you wanted, you wrote in the file, and they picked it up from the pharmacy. As simple as that. Some of you may know this point solution. I don't know how many of you know about this solution. It is the same formalin, but with a little picric acid and acetic acid. So it struck me that every other institution in the world uses simple 10% or formalin diluted from 40% formalin as their fixing solution. But here they use something with picric acid and acetic acid. So I went back and did some study. I asked them, why do you use this? They said, it is to better appreciate. Yes, it is to better bring out anything which is called a trichrome stain. Something like a Ramanaski stains, a trichrome. So triple stains, you get out the nuclear details beautifully when you use this solution. And believe me, all of us had a dress code. So those of us who are old timers, like Professor Hemant Raj, we still go about in the same old dress code. So whether day or night, we were always in a dress code. Everybody was in well dressed in a tie. There were no bedside attendants. You were just given 10 cards to write your address, and you deposit your patient and go home. So the patient is either cured or treated, and you are asked to come back. There were no mobile phones when I was a student, and that was a blessing. And so there were no bedside attendants, and we maintained austerity in everything. So you could use only one-sided paper to say, I want leave. And on the same paper, in another colored ink, it would be written in one single word, granted, not granted, finished. So that is an austerity which actually helped frame everything here. So this is the pioneering spirit. So you want to build an institution which is world class, you need to have some amount of pioneering spirit. You need to break away from the routine, establish a new path, envision a future for it. And the next part which they did in 1985 was transfer the skill set to a new batch of individuals in medical radiation and surgical oncology and physics. And of course, you needed to weather many a storm. Finally, you needed to leave a legacy. This is important. So you need to pursue the goal with honesty. Just setting the goal is not enough. So you need to do a real balancing act. You need to contain the uncertain cost of expenditure. So I used to ask him, how did you manage to raise the funds for this? He used to say, whenever I found that tomorrow there is no money for food, I would stand in, some of you, if you go to the old institute, there's a huge photo of Lord Venkateswara. He would humbly stand in front of it and pray for 5 to 10 minutes that by tomorrow it was his duty to see that the institute ran. And lo and behold, you would find somebody by that evening or the next day morning to come to contain that uncertain cost and expenditure. Inculcate a uniform value in each stakeholder. There are many stakeholders, and that is important. And you need to, he found this to be the worst part of the entire management, that is buffering a changing healthcare environment. It was very difficult for adjusting to a corporatization of healthcare in general, and of course, corporatization of cancer care in particular. But they did provide human values which go beyond education. I will show you what those human values can be and how to carry them forward as a legacy. And of course, strive for excellence in everything you do. That was the easiest part for them. So these are the interdependent values on which you need to balance what you have said. The patient, the clinicians, the researcher, the academicians, the administrators, trainees, managerial staff. Everyone is important in your journey as you make the institution into an institution of excellence. So clinical excellence, of course, you need to develop these skills which are very well known to you. I won't go through them in anything further than that. But individual excellence will lead to group excellence. So individually, everyone must be very astute at following this. You need to achieve some self-mastery. Maybe you can sit like the advisor under a tree and meditate like the Buddha, or take a class in meditation. Most of us do it. Selva Lakshmi and I still do it. So you need self-mastery. You need to have interactive competencies. This is very important. That means you need to be in a constant dialogue with your colleagues, your students, and the institution as a whole. Academic excellence, of course, is not easy to define. There are many standards. We search for standards, but they are not actually really existing. We just call them as academic standards. The standards which we use for the NAC accreditation, NABH, NABL are not really academic excellence. They are purely administrative and on paper excellence documents. So, but you need to have some quality of teaching. The capabilities of the students must be enhanced, and the scale of the resources at their disposal for learning process and training process should be wonderfully adequate. And the level of the student achievement ultimately proves the level to which you have strived to make them come up to that level. So this is what Einstein has said. Education is not the art of learning facts, but the training of the mind to think. So it is the duty of the teacher to induce this process of thinking in the student for themselves. So you have a question, think about it, meditate about it, seek clarification about it, either from a guru or from a book, and become wise on the topic. Research, this is where they have actually excelled in clinical epidemiology of any sort you take, in population-based registries, hospital-based registries, everywhere there's an excellence mark. And all of it is peer-endorsed, original, and it has moved from being just contemporary research, that is Me Too research. Somebody has done a marker in a given cancer. Let me also see what it is in my population. And instead of saying in South India, in northern South India, in North Tamil Nadu, in South Madras, you keep on giving one subset or the other and keep saying that this is what I have observed in my group of patients. So that is contemporary research. You need to move away from contemporary research, and you become the classic which now needs to be quoted by everybody, like the Dindigal study of just providing a lota of water, okay, or a chembu of water for the woman during her ablutions, during her menstrual period, just reduce the incidence of cervical cancer. So all that you needed was not hi-fi technology, but just provide something clean for the woman to clean herself. If the woman is clean, the incidence of cervical cancer dramatically drops. So that is important. And of course, it should be original and it should be rigorous. So nobody asked them to provide water to the women. They did it themselves and showed that it happened. So most of us are going through such amount of rigor that we found we finally end up lacking what we call curiosity. So indeed, Einstein said it is a miracle that curiosity actually survives formal education. So we kill the curiosity in the individual, which is the actual impetus, which is the actual seed which we need for somebody to do research. You are curious as to why this happened, or why this did not happen, or why it happened in that way. So to answer that, you need to have some curiosity, which is natural for a child. And as the formal education goes, he is taught to think along a certain line only and not deviate from the printed dotted line. So if you kill the curiosity to that extent, then they will actually lose that ability to become a good researcher. So you must kindle this curiosity through the wisdom you provide so that they become even more apt at looking out for answers through their curiosity. So this is creating an institute of excellence is important to be the number one in your group. What is care and what is treatment? This is what Dr. Shanta has said. The physician should not be just a doctor and give treatment, but also care and become part of the family. That means you need to know how to open a dialogue with the family and how to open to know about their sons, daughters-in-law, or grandchildren, or the spouses. So your vibrations must go with them. You must be part of them. In the end, when they are dying, people don't want anything more than they want only someone there to take care of them. This is what they call holding hand. And this, Professor Krishnamurti has actually mentioned that this Dr. Shanta was very adapted. So he said, I can provide very good treatment, but I am not that good as Dr. Shanta in providing care, who can stay with a dying patient throughout the night, holding the hand of the patient. So this is becoming part of the family. If you can transfer that and you are empathize with them and transfer their emotions to yourself, the person will die very peacefully. So we come to the value system. Value systems, most of you are adapted it. There is set of standards of morality. We hold those ideals to be very important. They're possibly relatively permanent and they transcend specific objects, people, situations, or persons. So they're universally adaptable and they're resistant to change. Let us see what value system each part of you, the people around you or the environment around you want. What does the patient want? We have just seen what the patient wants in Dr. Shanta's words. They want care, they don't want treatment. So if you understand the difference between care and treatment, that means you have understood what the patient actually wants. What does the society want? The society wants to be enlightened. So it is our job to go into the society and tell the society that this is what is cancer and this is what its treatment, this is what its prevention is, and this is what its cost is, and this is what has to be done to bring cancer and the mammoth under a control. So I still remember, most of you may also remember, that if there was a serial on TV which showed that the one of the proponents, main protagonist in the TV serial, the heroine or the hero being declared to have cancer, he would immediately call up that studio and say, please do not air such nonsense. So don't ever show that cancer is the death sentence. Typically, all your movies, all your serials portray that. So this is what is called fighting nihilism. So if you learn to fight nihilism, then you have done a good service to the society, bursting myths. You need to provide outcomes to the society. What did you do and what's the end result? Where did the buck go? How much did you spend on prevention? How much did you spend on stage 4 cancers? What was the result of all those stage 4 cancers? And engage the public in research, especially pharmacogenomics, to know how and why you are more susceptible to a cancer, how and why you react to a drug, a specific drug in a specific way, and become their advocate when they need the treatments. That means you need to make the lawmakers see your viewpoint from the side of the patient. Be their advocate, be the people's advocate all the time. That means you need to engage with the policymaker for your end. What does the government want? Typically, the government doesn't want anything to do with you, but you need to engage the government with epidemiology. You can have any amount of epidemiology to throw at them to say, this is what your population is suffering from. Outcomes research, screening and prevention if it is possible, and develop indigenous protocols and programs. Don't ape the West. Don't draw everything from the West and say, this is how this protocol was developed. I will use this protocol. I remember Professor Sagar telling me that you have got 8, 10, 11, 12, 13 drugs over the CHOP protocol. None of them will do any better, even by one single day. On the other hand, most of them will kill the patient before they actually complete the treatment. They are that morbid. They never improved. So all the protocols are slowly being withdrawn from the time when we were students. So we used to by heart all those protocols, and all of them have completely disappeared. The same is happening now to the much touted immuno-oncology protocols. Slowly, each one of them is being withdrawn. So there are some achievable targets like tobacco, hepatitis B, human papilloma virus. Try to engage the government in this area. What is this value addition in cancer care? This is the value addition which you can do. Be ethical, be honest, be responsible. Never exploit the patient. If you exploit the patient, you may become very rich, and you may, with your riches, escape being prosecuted or persecuted. Be as transparent as possible and absolutely collaborative, and be the advocate for the patient. That is what makes you turn from an individual into an institution. So our investment is a man versus machine. Should an algorithm dictate whom to treat? This is what Dr. Shanta was asked. Whose treatment brings in profit? What to treat with? Whose plug to pull? So an algorithm can tell you this is a better patient to concentrate on. Give this patient the treatment instead of wasting resources on XYZ because of the age, comorbid conditions, etc., or stage. Or it will tell you that it will cost you less to treat this patient and it will cost you more to treat that other patient. So spend less on this patient, use this protocol and don't use that protocol. And it will tell you finally that fellow's life is not worth saving beyond a day. So pull the plug on the ventilator or the bypass machine. So that is what an algorithm will actually tell you. So objective algorithms, you must understand, we call them objective because it is delivered by the machine and because the machine has no subjectivity. Am I right? That is why we say the machine is objective, the algorithm is objective. No, it is not true. It is not objective because it is patterned on the subjective assessment of the programmer. Who programmed the machine? Somebody like you and me has programmed the machine, but we did it subjectively. We thought that this fellow's life is better to save than that fellow's life. It is our subjective assessment, which we unknowingly passed on to the machine. So thinking that the machine will do better than us is actually foolishness. What is the penalty for not doing what we should be doing? As I have outlined, we will go into managed care where every term will be dictated like the national health scheme by 10 managers who have just passed out of the most recent MBA program in the country. So he will sit on your head and tell you, you are not doing this right. you should be doing it this way. So the danger of making a decision will slip out of your hand and you will no longer be a clinician. You'll be only listening to what the manager says is right or wrong. And the cost of care climbs very high due to the cost of managing engaging these managers. That means you are not earning just for yourself and for your family, but you are earning for 10 other families who are purely from the manager side. And the rewards, as I told you, if you corporatize this, is purely monetary, nothing beyond that. Believe me, it is purely monetary. After having said that, why at all do we need any value system? What if we do away without the value system? Won't we be better at all? We need to understand that this is not a just world. It is never going to be a just world. It is never going to be an equitable world. It is never going to be. We will always have haves and have-nots. Whatever materialistically, monetarily, whatever way you think, we are always going to be divided into haves and have-nots. So the lure of greed, name and fame actually will carry you over to the other side. And of course, the market forces will dictate what drug to prescribe, which brand to prescribe, and what machine to buy and replace, which test to perform as you go along. So their equanimity is purely evanescent. So you will never have any role model to go over what I have said. You will have plenty of role models to go to on the path of the penalty, and you will end up paying the penalty which I have described. So I have told you that it is important to have individuals as role models who translate everything they did into institutions, and then they in turn have a legacy which you and I, all of us need to carry. This is important to understand. Here is what I felt is the need for the alumni. So carry the core values in your heart, not in your mind. It should remain in your heart. If you think with your heart, you will empathize with the patient. If you think with your mind, you will only become a robot. Emulate, you don't have to completely adopt, you can adapt, you can improvise, you can innovate on values you have learned here. You can actively engage with your mother institution and check out patient care models for skill development, which you can improve. So you have learned a skill, go back and teach that in your alma mater. Drop a program to engage in community work. It is important. And more important than not, collaborate between the mother institution and between yourselves. Collaborate in everything that you do. Doesn't have to be research. It can be anything. It can be education, it can be patient care, it can be epidemiology, it can be a government program. It can be asking somebody some state to say, recognize cancer as a notifiable disease. As simple as that. I have a few suggestions at the end of my talk. You need to develop modeling for cost benefit analysis in the Indian circumstances, just like the NICE guidelines or quality versus care guidelines. Value in terms of life, not in terms of cost. That is important. And prioritize test and treatment. You don't discard, you just prioritize them and stack them into low, intermediate, and high cost benefit categories. And popularize the tools for outcomes research. Make it mandatory for students to learn what is outcomes research, what are you doing, and what is the outcome of what you did. And revisit every single step, test, procedure, and recommendation every few years to know what is redundant, what can be removed, what can be improved, what can be replaced, what can be completely discarded. Most often, it is true that we don't need to call patients once every 3 months. So it will save a lot, not just to you, the family, but the environment and to Mother Nature as well. So is there a need to call patients as rigorously as we are calling? What are we doing with them? We don't do anything with them. And network with alumni for continued care. So you have a patient who hails from an area where your alumnus is situated. You network with them, transfer the care of the patient to that alumnus, and continue the care with them, and they can report you once in a year or once in 2 years or once in 3 years as a periodicity. So, my friends, this is what Einstein again said. I'm sorry to be quoting Einstein, but he was very good at quoting with education. What we learn as education is not what he called education. Education is what remains after you forgot what you have learned in school. So, what is it that is going to remain with you? It is only that set of values which are beyond education. They are going to remain with you in your heart. So, what do you carry in your mind or your brain? You carry the education which XYZ or perhaps Google gurus have given you. But what you need to carry beyond the school and what will serve you as a clinician, as a doctor, as a person who is interested in caring for patients, the environment, and the society is all that remains after you have forgotten what you learned in school. I'll end my talk with this famous quotation from Bhagavatam. Several actually may be knowing this. So this is a very fervent prayer by Ranti Deva in the Bhagavatam. I do not pray to the Lord that I shall be endowed with eightfold powers, nor even for the state of liberation from the cycle of birth and death. That is not what he asked. That is what the Vedanta teaches you or the Veda teach you, but that is not what Rantideva wanted. I desire only to abide within all human beings and undergo their suffering that accrues to them. So, in order to empathize, I need to enter their body, okay, their physical body, to know what is it they are suffering in mind and body. By taking over their suffering, by my taking over their suffering, they will be free from misery. This is what the three protagonists about whom I have talked achieved. That is why they became an institution, and the Cancer Institute is an institution. And that's the meaning of individual, institution, and value system. Thank you very much. So just read the last line. It's the number of faces that smile when they hear your name, not your fluent English achieved. Your brand. That is why they became an institution, and the Cancer Institute is an institution. And that's the meaning of individual, institution, and value. Thank you very much. So just read the last line. It's a number of faces that smile when they hear your name, not your fluent English achieved. Your brand. That is why they became an institution, and the Cancer Institute is an institution on the block. And that's the meaning of individual, institution, and value. Thank you very much.
Finding a care cure cancer. So your talk enlightened us.
So
not
just
only
read
about
the last line.
values
It's a
followed
number
in the
of
Cancer
faces
Institute,
that smile
but how
when they
best to
hear your
incorporate
name,
them
not
in
your
the system as a whole.
fluent
And
English.
importance of
Your
research
brand is why
in enhancing the
they
excellence
became
of
an
the
institution,
your
and
guidance
the
to the
Cancer
alumni of
Institute is an
Cancer Institute
institution on the
will
block. And
serve
that's
as
the
a
meaning
guide
of
to all of us
individual,
assembled here
institutions,
to take
and
forward
value.
for
Thank you
our
very
own
much.
alma mater to cancer. And your last slide.
Your talk enlightened us.
So
Not
just
only
read the
about
last line.
values
It's a
followed
number
in the
of
Cancer
faces
Institute,
that
empathetic
smile
doctor,
How
when they
best
hear
to
your
incorporate
name,
them
not your
the system as a whole.
fluent
and
English.
importance of
Your brand is why
I now
they
request
became an institution,
your
and
guidance
the
to the
Cancer
alumni
Institute
of
is an
Cancer
institution on the block. And that's the meaning of
all of the
individual,
present here. Dr. S.
institutions, and
Krishnamurti
value.
Memorial
Thank
Oration
you very
Award
much.
to Dr. Raghunatha Rao.
And your last slide. Your talk enlightened us.
So
Not
just
only
read the
about
last line.
values
It's a number of faces that smile
but how
when they
best to
hear your name,
them
not your
the system as a whole.
fluent English.
And the last line, attack and items, not the last line. It's a number of small places that my and the last line, attack and items, not the last line. It's a number of small places that and the last line, attack and items, not the last line. It's a number of small places that
are immensely pleased to award the Dr. S. Krishnamurti Memorial Oration for 2021 to Professor Dr. Raghunath Rao Digamarthi on this 14th day of September 2021 in this August Assembly at the Silver Jubilee Auditorium of the University at Chennai. Thank you. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. I now request the Registrar of the Tamil Nadu, Dr. M.J. Medical University, Dr. Ashwat Narayanan, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. Respected chief guest of today, the orator, Dr. Raghunath Rao. Greatness of a man is manifest in simplicity. An extraordinarily simple man, he recounted his days on route number 21E in Chennai 30 years ago. And such a simple man that you feel humbled before him. Thank you very much, sir. You have traveled far from Vizag to Mumbai, Chennai, Hyderabad, and finally to Vizag again. We are happy to have you here with us, sir. Thank you for sparing your time and being with us and accepting the oration. Thank you very much, sir. Dear Dr. Hemant Raj, the Executive Vice Chancellor, Chairman of Cancer Institute. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your time and efforts to be with us here today, for the wonderful interaction that we had with you. We had two people online today, Dr. Krishnamurti Sundaram and Dr. Pala Rajesh. Thank you, sir, for sparing your time being with us at an odd hour in your place, for gracing this occasion and contributing so wonderfully well to add to the emotional time. Thank you, Dr. Selva Lakshmi, Director Madam of Cancer Institute, for being with us. She is one of the mentors for this program. I would like to also thank Mr. Krishna Raj of Cancer Institute, who has so well coordinated the activity here today. We have two former Vice Chancellors, the backbone of this institution, who have constantly supported and guided all the activities here. Thank you very much, sirs, for coming. I thank Dr. Sagar and the governing body of the Cancer Institute members who are here today to grace this occasion and add to the splendor. Thank you very much, sirs and madam. I would like to thank our governing council members, Dr. Mahadevan from JIPMER, the Director of Medical and Rural Health Services, the other endowment members here, members of the Standing Academic Board and Board of Studies, members of the Senate, members of the Adyar Cancer Institute and the Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University who have spared their time to be with us and make this program a wonderful success. I would like to thank Mr. Kumar of Cool Events who's made this online presentation possible and wonderfully done well. I would like to thank the event manager of this program, if I may call her, so Dr. Srividya, for being with us here and delivering the quotations as things went along. And lastly, I would like to thank my Vice Chancellor for having made this program wonderfully well. If it has gone along this well, it is the consistent training that she has given. I just would like to add a word to what Dr. Raghunandan Rao said in between. I'm yet to see, madam, for the past 1.5 years, use a two-sided paper. We have all taken to writing on one side now here also. And I thank everybody who has spared their time here. I thank the Lord Almighty for having made this program wonderfully well. Thank you all very much. Thank you again. Good day.
Thank you very much, sir. We have now come to the end of the program. I request all of you to rise for the national anthem. Thank you.